Hey Tekken players, hope you're doing well. So I'm going to do a bit of a follow-up video from a video that King Jae made. Now if you haven't seen it, I'll link to it below. Now King Jae, just to get this on record, he is a really good Tekken content creator. He did a really good series all about basically where he talks to a pro and gets the pro to show him how to use a character. It's really good. And you know he's a serious presence on YouTube. He's also really competitive player. Like he goes to tourneys and all sorts. And I've no doubt that if we were to ever play a match, even a King Mirror match, he'd probably wipe the floor with me. Okay, so I'm just getting that all out on record. However, a lot of what he said in that video is not true, and that's not his fault. You have to be a real King nerd to know a lot of this stuff, and that's fine. And a lot of what he said is true. And basically, the whole video got into a really sort of interesting conversation about if we're going to nerf King, which I think 99% of people agree he needs nerfs, how do we do it? So I just kind of want to follow up. To be honest, I haven't said anything yet because I was waiting for a real professional to do some kind of response, but no one's done it yet. So I'm going to offer my my scrubby opinion. But just to demonstrate what I mean in terms of when I just say that although King Jae is incredibly knowledgeable and skilled player, that he's not necessarily 100% correct on everything in that video. He talks about King's Jaguar Sprint being ridiculously OP, right? Because there's no option select. So just to show you, you know, this sort of shenanigans. Okay, so how do we escape this? I'm going to let him hit me, so I'm at -8. Okay, so I've got basically no frames to work with. But watch this. You see, as soon as he starts running, one jab and he'll break the armor. See, that's all I'm doing. Or you can do this, alternatively. Right, oh yeah, so that's the throw. So the throw will lose to the low because he goes underneath it. But what a jab! That's all you have to do. And if he goes for the low, you float him. You see? And it doesn't matter where you are, you can do this from like the other side of the stage. Wherever you are, this will break it basically. Okay, that didn't, I wasn't quick enough. But you get the general gist, right? You see? That is how you deal with, the Jaguar mix. And that's why in high levels of play, you'll never see that used. Because there's no mix up, it's all completely fake, right? So that's just to give you one quick demonstration. Let me turn the heat off so he shuts up. Okay, so that's no disrespect to King Jae. I'm just showing that when he talks about certain things, that's just not the case. As I say, that Jaguar Sprint is to anyone who knows the matchup, and obviously by definition that'll be every pro. They know that you just jab and that's it. It's gone. There's no mix up there. Just so again, so I've got it on record, it's not the same when you go into that after a heat smash. That is a genuine mix-up. But if he's just doing it raw, you just jab and it'll beat all his options. So it's just to nail my, just to make the point that I kind of like, you know, I'm not just making stuff up when I say some things that King Jae said were wrong. That's just one example. But anyway, right, let me just talk about what I really want to talk about now, because that's what got me interested in thinking, how could we potentially nerf King? So let's talk about it. Okay, so now I've got my own King. Let's talk about what we could do to nerf him. And let's start with the heat smash, because this gets a lot of complaints. Okay, saying that his heat smash is too good. Now I do think it needs to change. Probably not the way you think. Now the reason why it doesn't need to, he should still have it. Not in its complete form, but because I've kind of pointed out the fact that the rest of his heat stuff is kind of rubbish, because all he has, as I kind of demonstrated, is basically doing this kind of shenanigans, which, as I pointed out, every option can be beaten with a jab, right? Apart from that, all he really has is the same stuff everybody else has, i.e., you know, basically heat dashes and all that kind of stuff. And even his heat dashes aren't very good. This is mid. This is mid high, so that can be ducked. And his alternative is this, which is quite slow. 27. Oh no, how many frames is that to come out? Let's have a look. 20 frames to come out, so that's pretty slow. So they're not that good, apart from this one. Oops. And my pad's playing up. There we go. Apart from this one, which we'll talk about in a bit. So he needs to have the heat smash, otherwise his heat is useless. It has no utility. Now the way I would change it is, and I would make this universal to kind of all heat smashes. If you step the first bit, that should be an end, basically. So obviously his heat smash, he does 2 moves. The first is a big kick. Oh, sorry, apologies. He does the big arm thing into the kick or whatever. If that first one whiffs, the rest should whiff. Okay, he should just stumble and be at like super minus frames. Because at the moment, sometimes you can step the first bit, but he just kind of runs on. Let me see what happens if I get the dummy to do it. So, okay, so standing block, and then we want him to, let's do sidewalk right. You see how he kind of keeps moving? So even though the dummy sort of stepped incorrectly there, oops, miss input. You see how he just keeps wandering off? So that's quite hard to punish on reaction. Now, King is by no way the worst of this. The worst is the likes of Dragunov, right? Where you step the first part of his heat smash and he just keeps running off across the stage and you have to run after him. So I would make that a universal change. If the first hit whiffs, it should be a bit like when Heihachi whiffs a back 4, or when Asuka whiffs, I've forgotten her move. But basically, he should just stumble over like an idiot, making it very, very obvious that you can now punish him. And that's it, and then you punish. So that's what I would do to balance that. I think it's possibly the second best heat smash in the game. I don't think it's the best, although everyone quotes it as being the best. I would argue Jin's is the best. And the reason why I say that is because, yeah, this is a lot of damage. You get 60 damage from it, right? If it hits clean. And you get a mix up on on block or whatever. However, Jin's, if Jin hits you and it hits a wall, which statistically is pretty likely in this game because most of the stages have walls, and that wall splats from 10 miles away, the follow-up combo Jin gets is way more than 60. So I would argue Jin's is stronger, and he still gets to mix up on if you block it and all the rest of it. But I would say King's is second. But as I said, I think King, and to an extent Jin, you could argue they need it because the rest of their heat stuff is very mediocre, especially compared to the rest of the cast. So that's step number 1. Now step number 2, we need to talk about this low. You know it's coming. Okay, this low is too strong, and King doesn't need to have a strong low. He's never had strong lows. Why is that? Because throws are highs. So that's how, kind of traditionally, that's how you make your opponent duck. You threaten the throw, right? You get him to duck, and then you apply the mid. Yeah. So you shouldn't need to have a really, really strong low to add to that. However, if we're going to keep it, because you can't just remove it altogether. So if we're going to keep it, you could either do 2 things. You either keep it exactly how it is, with the one exception of you change it to be minus 14 on block. So you're still not going to get launched by most of the casts. Some of the casts will launch you at that, but you'll get a more substantial punish. Or alternatively, if you're going to keep it minus 13, then you need to change the counter hit damage. At the moment, I believe it's 50. Yeah, 50. Change that to say something like 40 if it's going to stay at only minus 13. Again, whichever one you want to do, I'm not too bothered, but that's what needs to happen either way. Because he doesn't need a super strong. And to be fair, like this throw is not as broken as some, because as you can see, if I can get them to do it. Oh, okay, maybe I can't then. I was hoping I could demonstrate him stepping it. Mind you, King has got a rubbish sidestep. But anyway, most characters can sidestep this quite easily. It's very, very linear. That's kind of like its really big weakness. But I agree, it's too strong as it is. So do one of those, make it minus 14 on block, or take away the throw damage, make it 40, not 50. It's too strong as it is. So the next one, and quite a big one. This, it's this. Oops. Let me just get this to stop block spamming. Okay, it's this. This counter hit, 13 frame counter hit knockdown into combo. It doesn't matter how you look at it. This should not be in Tekken 8. Like when you have all the counter hit nerfs from Tekken 7, King should not have this as it currently is. And you can disagree with me, but I think you're going to have to sort of just put your downplaying at the door, because it is too strong. So again, how do you balance it? Well, I think you've got two options. You either make it so you can't delay it. Okay, so you can't Twitch confirm it was counter hit. It just has one sort of cadence, right? So if you're going to do it, you have to basically you're pre-guessing that your opponent's gonna press, similar to back 1-2. Obviously in Tekken 7 you used to be able to just fish with back 1 like this and just keep fishing, and then once it landed you could then get a combo out of it, whereas now you have to commit to both hits. So you could do that. That would be one way around it. So basically it's not free, and a good player will duck the second hit if you commit, so you keep it sort of a high risk strategy. Alternatively, because I kind of think that'd be a bit sad to do that, because I genuinely think it's a really good skill to be able to learn to Twitch confirm this. It's not easy, especially online. There's a lot of kind of like there's a lot of skill involved, right? And to be fair to the developers, they've tried their best to kind of keep legacy skills in there. So that's why he has blue spark throws, right? Because I can do them now. Because they want something for, like, those of us who have those of us who's practiced this kind of thing. They want to give you a little extra. So what you could do, if you to keep that element, is just have it so the scaling is reduced. So maybe like reduce the scaling so it's similar to if you land a counter hit shove. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So if you land this, then the follow-up hits are scaled quite a lot. So to give you an example, what's this by itself? This is so that's 23 damage normally. However, if you land it after a counter hit shove, 16, because it's scaled, right? And that's as true for anything else you do. So that could be one way around it. If you get this knockdown, then the following combo is scaled, so it doesn't give you the full 75 that it doesn't know. Maybe it gives you something like 50, or something like that. So you keep that sort of like that kind of skill element, but it's just not as you just don't get as much out of it. So again, either way, not too bothered, but I think you've got to do something about it, right? And the third and final one is the muscle armor, because now the muscle armor is incredibly strong. It's not perfect, as I pointed out. It loses to quite a few things, including it loses to heat smashes, it loses to rage art, it loses to throws and lows. So it's got lots and lots of options around it, but it is very good. Now again, it's kind of similar to what I was discussing with his heat stuff. He has to keep this in somehow. He needs it. And why is that? Well, because his movement's been gutted, right? His backdash is just useless, like compared to old games. It was never that good in old games, to be honest, but it's now even worse. Same with his sidestep. He's a big character. He does not have much of a step or a backdash. Even Jack, who's a big body, but Jack has a massive backdash. So, his character arc is built around, for Jack, backdash, whiff punish for down forward 2 launch, right? So if it's like, if you're going to take this away, or seriously nerf it, then you've got to give his backdash back again. Now, before you start saying, "Oh yeah, but Beige, what about this?" Yeah, this is kind of like an option, but again, it's kind of rubbish because when you're in this state, not only are you blocking, you're technically airborne, so you can get floated out of this. Let me show you what I mean. Get all these to 0. Call a new one. Right, so that's a classic round start for King mains, including myself. You'll do a at the round start. You'll back away like this, but see, you floated. Do it again. So that Jaguar step back is again not good. There's so many things will clip you out of it, right? It's not like a Kempo where you're blocking the whole time. So if you're going to take away all this, you have to increase its movement, because this is how, because you know, Tekken 8 is very much, it's all about sort of heavy pressure, rush down, you know, and the way that characters get out of that is they move around and get out of it. What King does is he goes, come on then, do it, and then you absorb it and boom, you know, that's it. So again, how do you sort of balance this? I think if you're going to make any changes to it, I think the only change I think would be fair, because by the way, oops, this is a heat engager, okay, but as I mentioned before, his other heat engagers are pretty mediocre. Again, 4-2-1 is mid high, and this is pretty slow, so this is by far his best one. So I think the way you could do to make this fair is just take away the full heat dash combo you get out of it. Now it's not what I normally do, but so you see, like, if you, that was rubbish, but you get an idea. You can get a full combo out of it. So maybe a way to make it fairer is just take away, so you don't get the combo, you get like a slump. So you basically like you can't combo off, but you get like a free follow, like say like a people's elbow or a grounded shoulder, something like that. So just take away the fact you can just, you know, the fact you can launch. Anyway, as I don't know the combo for it, but you get the idea. Again, I think that could be a way to sort of to balance it out. In terms of anything else, like, I don't think I would change much else, to be completely honest. Throws are no longer tracking. That's fine. And an interesting change that no one mentions is actually not only do they no longer track, but actually even like some of his throws in Tekken 8 used to have a bit of tracking. So Tombstone, they actually changed it where it did track slightly more to his weak side. So some of his throws had an element of kind of like mind games, because some of them did track a bit. Now none of them do, outside of, you know, outside the generic ones and the unbreakable ones. But all his command throws no longer track whatsoever. So the only other thing you could do, and I disagree, just for the record, is you could maybe sort of again reduce the or increase the amount of frames you have to break on a counter hit throw. I personally wouldn't do that, because I just don't see why, if every other move, you know, if every move has counter hit properties, right, which makes it stronger, why shouldn't throws? So why should it be that if, you know, if I let's say that if someone is like -9 in my face, right, and I land a sorry, say they're -9 in my face and they're still trying to mash jab, right? If I land a giant swing like that, why should it be that they still have like just as long a time to break it, you know, despite the fact they were just sort of mashing, you know, because they're at -1. Do you see what I mean? I feel like if you've placed a throw like to make it counter hit in effect, then I think you should be rewarded with that. Otherwise throws will just end up going back to what they were in Tekken 7, which was basically at the highest level useless. So I don't think, I think the throws as they are, keep them. And to be fair, again, the other big nerf to his throw game, which no one talks about, is a lot of Oki options are now gone. There's no Oki off this whatsoever. That used to be quite sort of fundamental. He still has good Oki off the Shining Wizard, but I'm worried that they're going to change this at some point. He still has good Oki off that for now, but as I say, the rate they're going, they took all the Oki away from this. No Oki now whatsoever. So every time they seem to sort of nerf it more and more and more. So in short, it's a long-winded way of saying I don't think the throws need to be nerfed. Not if you want him to maintain his character arc as a grappler, which they've done a really good job in Tekken 8, then yeah, don't nerf the throws anymore. By all means, take away his overpowered low and reduce his counter hit viability. That's fine, but keep the throws as they are. So anyway, that's just to get a conversation started. I'd love to know what you guys think. If you were going to balance King, like for Season 2, what would you do to change him? Put the comments down below. It'd be really interesting to get a discussion about it. And I look forward to seeing the next one.